These are donated from yeah.
Oh,
I can smell it.
I know, you could smell them.
I can smell it the second I come in the building.
That's so funny about lilies. They just like have that smell.
Well, honestly, you can start whenever you want.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Sean Smith. I'm the head of adult services here at the Topsfield Town Library. We're very, very happy to host Lindsey Fera today. Lindsey is the author of so far 2 different novels, with a third one in the works. First one is Muskets Minuets, which is also a book club selection for the Topsfield Council on Aging. The second one, the follow-up, is Muskets Masquerades. You can get it Amazon. You can get it Imperfect, the Imperfect gift shop
Right
down in
downtown.
Topsfield Center, at Barnes and Noble, all that fun stuff. And we're kind of here to
Talk mostly.
we're going to talk mostly about the book Muskets and Minuets today, which I thought I told you this earlier, was an excellent book. But I want to start off first by asking a little about yourself, to give an introduction. You're a local author, and you have a lot of history in Topsfield.
Yes. So I'm Lindsey. I am from Topsfield, pretty much born and raised here. I'm a Masco graduate of 2005. And I currently live and work in New Hampshire as a registered nurse. I've been doing critical care for the past over 10 years now. I was in the ICU for a while, and then COVID hit, and then I went to the cardiac cath lab, which is where I currently work. And my husband is also a nurse, and we have a dog named Bean, who's an Airedale Terrier. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, I guess to get started, what started you? I mean, it sounds like you have a lot of different interests from, or working from the ER. I know, or working in the ER. Obviously, love history. Mm-hmm. What got you started writing?
I always was writing as a kid. I remember I had the 2nd grade teacher at Stewart's school. Her name was Mrs. Keith, and she had us write these like little books, and I remember just really enjoying that we got to write our own stories as assignments, and so I probably still have all of those little books, and they were very short, but they could be about whatever you wanted them to be. And I just remember picking the favorite parts of my life or my favorite friends or anything, and just writing, little short stories about them. And she would staple, these like colored paper, and they all were a different color, and you got to choose your title, and I just loved that. And I was like, oh, it would be so fun to be an author. And I just really gravitated towards creative writing. And I started Muskets and Minuets as a single manuscript when I was 16, living in Topsfield. I grew up on Averill Street, and I would walk down Averill Street, up Howlett Street, down Perkins Row. I would go for runs. And I always really loved the French Andrews house, which is on Howlett Street. And that was my inspiration from the get-go for Annalisa Howlett's house, even though it's the French Andrews house. But I was like, that's on Howlett Street, and I wanted to use that name. So I kind of picked names of the streets that I grew up on and around for inspiration for the characters. I didn't want to use any real people in the novel. You will find some actual historical people in the novel, but I wanted to keep it completely fiction for the main characters, just out of respect for any descendants of historical people. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. My parents are here. So yeah, that's kind of my inspiration for that.
So in Muskets and Minuets, it's I believe it's dedicated to Topsfield as well. It says Fort Topsfield in it. Yeah. I was telling you earlier that if there was a drinking game for every time there was a last name that reminded you something Topsfield history related, you wouldn't be lasting too long. Because there's Perkins, there's Howlett, there's Averill, there's French.
French Andrews. Brad Street.
I'm kind of losing count. But obviously there was a lot of research done when creating this. So tell us about your research process with writing.
Sure. I started the research process with a lot of historical nonfiction based during the Revolutionary War. So I have books dedicated specifically to Bunker Hill, specifically Lexington and Concord, books that cover the length of the entire war, Saratoga, and that's kind of where I started the research process. I also started going to different sites. We live fairly close to Minuteman National Park. I went to a bunch of reenactments. I went to Battle Road, obviously Bunker Hill, visiting that monument there, climbing all the way to the top, and and just being in and around Boston, going on walking tours, going to the Boston Tea Party Museum, just really getting a feel for the lay of the land, which has changed drastically since 1770s. Most of Boston is landfill now, so anyone stepping back in time wouldn't recognize it today. You wouldn't recognize it then either. It was just one square mile of space was the city of Boston. So it was really hard looking at a lot of maps and studying those. And then, of course, diving into online research as well. So I found a lot of stuff about Topsfield. I didn't actually go to the Historical Society and dig up any old manuscripts because I kind of wanted things to take place in town, but I didn't want a lot of historical facts to sort of cloud a lot of the fiction.
Get in the way.
Exactly. So it was a lot of fun.
And I guess for your characters, you have Annalisa, who's the protagonist, right? Tell me about, like, is it inspired by someone, or is it like, is this just kind of a creation from your imagination, or what?
She's kind of an amalgamation of Deborah Sampson, who was a real historical figure, who did fight in the Revolutionary War, I believe in the 1780s, and she dressed up like a man and fought in the war and was actually honorably discharged later on, but she was discovered to be a woman. She had a musket wound to her thigh. They found out when they went to heal her, and that was how she was uncovered. So I like the idea that a woman dressed up like a man and fought in the war, and I thought, well, Deborah Sampson can't be the only person to have done that. And so that was kind of where Annalisa was born. I wanted to have this coming-of-age story where she's conflicted. She's trying to learn how to be a proper lady for the 18th century, but she's more gravitating towards, like, the politics, and she really looks up to her older brother, George, who teaches her how to fire a musket, and she's like, well, I would rather be doing this, and I don't want to dance the minuet. I'm not good at dancing, and it kind of spun from there into what her character is. So she really has this sort of an internal struggle, and the overall theme of the story is sort of coming of age, and you'll see as the characters grow with the war, it's the war itself, America is coming of age as well. So I kind of wanted that to be a parallel timeline for everything.
And I mean, what you're talking about is, like, there's families in here that are split between loyalist and patriot sympathies as well. Right.
And I wanted to really show that because that was really true to the times. I think a lot of what we learn in history class, it's very like, we were all patriots and we wanted to, break away from England, and that wasn't necessarily true, especially early on in the war. And I feel like what truly inspired me, particularly with book 1 in Muskets and Minuets, half of the book is dedicated to the time leading up to the war. So it's not just the war itself, it's like, well, what got us to the point where we wanted to separate from England? And when you think about the Revolutionary War, it always starts in 1776, and people forget about Boston. People forget about, well, what got us here? And we're like the birthplace of the revolution, is what they say. It's like, I was inspired by that, and I wanted to sort of be the voice of this area, because in like TV, movies, it's all New York, 1776, 1777, 1781 Yorktown. It's like, they don't talk about Bunker Hill, they don't talk about Lexington and Concord as much, and they sure as heck don't talk about, the Stamp Act and, the Boston Tea Party and what led us to revolting, and the Sons of Liberty were considered a terrorist group by most Bostonians because they were tarring and feathering everybody, which is horrifying. So I kind of wanted to show that, like, yes, there were people who sympathized with the patriot sentimentality going around at the time, but a lot of people were moderate. They were like, we've had our own charter for 100 years. We can rule ourselves. We don't need England to be as, dictatorial as they are right now. But I don't want to separate from England because we do need them and we need a relationship with them. So a lot more people like Lord Perkins is sort of the middle guy, and then I wanted to show that with his two oldest sons, like one's loyalist and one's patriot. You get sort of that like family dynamic, and it did tear families apart for sure.
You do get with Lord Perkins as well as a character where it's just like, the Boston Masquerade, that was bad, each time. Yeah. And almost like a moving of the goalposts because, or like reluctance a little bit because it's just like, the Boston Masquerade, that was bad, all the intolerable acts. He's acting like a tyrant.
Right. And like, what's the last straw for him to kind of say like, okay, like I'm gonna go and support Congress now.
And I mean, he eventually, I don't think it's giving away too much in saying that there's a little bit of a come around at the end, even if he doesn't wish his gentleman's son to be on the front lines. But talk about more about like you write like scenes of like our main characters will see themselves at the Boston Tea Party, at the Boston Massacre, at a tar and feathering. As well, and it's just talk a little bit about writing about that and how you made those scenes come to life. Yeah,
definitely. Well, particularly for the Boston Tea Party scene, I did go to the reenactment, and if you haven't been to that reenactment, it's fabulous. They do have the body of the people at Old South Meeting House that you can go to, and they reenact the whole. They're waiting for Mr. Roach to show up from Milton. And the governor's like, no, you have to unload the tea. And they were like, we don't want to unload the tea. All right, well, this was the last straw. And so everybody parades down Milk Street to Griffin's Wharf, and they had this plan in action. They're like, well, if the governor says no, well, we're going to unload the tea into the harbor. That's where it's going to go. And it's just really exciting to be there and sort of witness the reenactors do this whole event and then march with them to Griffin's Wharf, where you watch them literally throw loose leaf black tea into the harbor. It really felt like you were there. So I really took that experience when I wrote that scene, and I wanted my character Jack to experience it because he's very sympathetic to the Patriots, but he's sort of in this high society role where if he gets caught, I mean, it's game over for him, really. So the stakes are high for him, but he thinks that this is something worth partaking in, and I just thought it would be fun for him to be a part of that.
I feel like with your character Jack too, there's that tension between like high society, which also has like the English, like aristocratic overtones, and then that kind of meritocracy almost, or like the spirit of 76 in that sense, where it's just like
it's his own internal struggle.
Forgoes like doesn't care for titles or exactly. That thing. So I think that made Jack a pretty interesting character as well.
Definitely, he's torn between two different worlds, just as I think a lot of people were torn between two different worlds at that time as well. So.
Even because there's one scene where Jack and his brother are in Versailles, and it's just like we gotta go, we gotta go home, like, I think watching his development too, because Jack strikes me as like a character that would, has good intentions, and sometimes though, in spite of himself, will make wrong decision. He's flawed, but is like ultimately, and I feel Annalisa feels the same way, as a good guy. I try to write very gray characters, because people are gray. I don't think anybody in life is wholly good or wholly bad. I think you have people who are mostly good or mostly bad or somewhere in between, and I thought that was a really fun way to sort of toy with his character and saying like, well, he is conflicted, like, well, who wouldn't be conflicted? She has her faults too, and so does George. So it's like they all kind of have, their hearts are in the right place. And it makes for a lot more interesting writing. Exactly. Where you have, you don't have like, oh, well, every decision that this person makes is gonna.
Exactly. And they can't be good at everything either. I was like, Annalisa can't be good at dancing. She needs to stumble, she needs to fall. Like, it's normal, you know. I kind of wanted to normalize, you know, people not being perfect.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I guess to get back to Annalisa or Annie, whichever you prefer.
Yeah.
So definitely a character written with a feminist bent, I suppose. And I just if you wanted to talk about that a little bit more as well.
Yeah, definitely. I liked the idea of writing a character of her time who's struggling with going with the grain of society, because there's always people in any society who struggle with going with the grain of society. Then they're beating to their own drum and they want to make their own path for themselves. And I think that's how we have progress as a society. You know, you have different people from all walks of life saying, yeah, this main highway is great, but there's a really scenic road over here that doesn't look like it's well trodden, so let's go down that path instead. And I kind of felt like that was her spirit, you know?
Yeah.
You're told to always be like your older sister who's literally perfect at everything.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's not me. And so why force herself to be that way? And I think she tries, you know, initially, to her detriment, perhaps. But again, you know, she comes out on top, hopefully, at the end.
Well, like Jane was an interesting character in the sense of, I feel like, kind of reflective of like the hollowness of that like perfect on the surface, but like
but lacking internally.
Yes,
for sure. When I went to Williamsburg, they said something that really like resonated with me as I was trying to research the 18th century. And they said it's like being in the 8th grade on steroids. So everybody's judging everybody. You all have to look the same. You all have to like look absolutely perfect. The minuet is literally a promenade where everybody is around the room watching to see if you mess up the dance. It's just terrible. It's terrible. And it's I wanted to have a character like Jane who just is sort of that picture perfect image of what a lady should be in the 18th century. And then Oliver is that gentleman of the 18th century. Like, we might think that he's sort of one of the villains and he doesn't do any great things, but he's sort of that stereotypical 18th century, you know, does what is expected of him for the times. So we look at Oliver and Jane as the villains when in fact they're just behaving the way that they're expected to behave, whether it's good or bad to our modern eyes.
So I guess another question would be, what authors have inspired you? What books have inspired you? And is there any of that carrying over to your book?
My favorite book is The Mists of Avalon by Marion Zimmer Bradley, which is a retelling of the Arthurian legend through the eyes of his sister Morgan Le Fay and Guinevere, and so sort of the women behind the Arthurian legend. And I really loved that story, how it was woven together. I mean, the book is huge, but it was just so beautifully written, and the way that she writes really resonated with me, and I feel like I don't copy her style by any means, but she has influenced me quite a bit. And of course, her feminine edge that she has in that story has for sure inspired me the most. I read that book every year. So.
But any other authors or anything like that?
Well, Jane Austen.
Yeah. That's sort of
Jane Austen's my muse. Yes, Jane Austen. My favorite Austen novel is Persuasion. I have a soft spot for Captain Wentworth. He's a wonderful character. That's definitely my favorite. I mean, obviously Pride and Prejudice is wonderful as well, but
so
I love Persuasion. Yeah.
Like I feel like your book's a really good example of like that like manners type novel, but with that added historical fiction and with the local interest too, where I mean like a lot of it takes place in Topsfield, that it kind of like, I was just like, oh, this is sort of like if you just took like Pride and Prejudice, put it in Topsfield at the beginning of the American Revolution, where you have that extra kind of plot line to it. That's sort of I thought that was sort of intentional. I wasn't sure though.
I don't know that it was intentional. It probably just came out on the page because that's what I love the most. I love this town, and I love Jane Austen, and writing her, reading her stuff I feel like it would come out in the writing for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
But that's a huge compliment. Thank you.
It was like, I mean, I can't I enjoyed reading like every second of this book. It was excellent.
Thank you.
But I want to leave some time for you if you have some specific things you want to talk about or something that you want to talk about as well.
Oh, just it is a planned trilogy, so
Yeah.
I'm working on book 3 right now. I'm gonna reveal the title for book 3.
Oh.
Muskets and Martyrs.
I don't like the martyrs part of it.
Muskets and Martyrs. So that will be the thrilling end to the trilogy.
To the characters in here as well.
Yeah, and then on the back burner of my brain, I'm thinking about doing spin-off series
Okay.
that takes place during the War of 1812 that features the kids,
So
which you'll see more of in the second and third books. Yeah.
when you're writing, do you get like attached to these characters?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so hard to say goodbye.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's taking me so long to write book 3. I know how I want it to end. I know how the ending is going to be, and I know the big plot points, but getting through it has been a slog. And I think it's partly I just don't want to say goodbye to them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Is there any bit of autobiographical elements in any of these characters, do you think?
Not really. I don't think so. Everyone's like, "Oh, you're Annalisa," and I'm like, "I don't think so." I'm not tall. I'm not
You're not fighting the
I'm not fighting in the Revolutionary War yet. No.
Okay.
I don't know. I have a soft spot for George just because he's so not like me. Like
George is kind of
he's crass, he's
a
vulgar,
cool
but
guy.
he's like
Yeah,
he's just like
George is-
diehard patriot. You
George
know?
is the type of guy I feel like you'd want to hang out with.
Yes,
you know,
he would be like the fun one.
at like the inn.
At the inn,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. He's the one drinking and being rowdy, and
Yeah.
and he's a hoot. I had fun writing him,
Yeah.
I think, which is why I have a soft spot for him. I also had fun writing Jane, which is terrible to say, but it's interesting because like she's just so not a good person that to like get into that mindset, you're like, oh, what's the evilest thing she could do? You know, and you're like, it's not attached to her, but
Yeah.
it was like, I have big plans for her in book 3. People will feel vindicated, I promise.
I mean, but like I think your point with Jane though is really interesting though, where it's just like, is she like, I mean, she's definitely unlikable.
Yes.
But like, she is definitely kind of behaving within, I guess, the guardrails
Totally.
of like what you'd expect.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I think there's at one point in the book where Lord Perkins asks, it might be Jack. It's just like let's take emotion out of this. Let's think rationally, here,
which is huge
right?
for the 18th century.
Yeah, and it's just
Reason.
like,
Yeah.
and I feel like even with love being like kind of like a transactional thing, that she's representative of that. A little
Oh,
bit.
absolutely, absolutely, and that's a big theme also, is reason. Like the Enlightenment was
Yeah.
during the 18th century, so I really wanted to sort of highlight that as like, you need to be reasonable. Like,
Yeah.
like this is like, marriage isn't necessarily about loving your spouse. It's about like, this is a good match, and that sucks for him. And he knows that,
Yeah.
but he's trying to do the right thing. Do I not do the right thing? What is the right thing? And I feel like that was kind of it's a big theme kind of throughout the whole trilogy, is what is the right thing?
Yeah.
Without giving anything away.
Yeah, it's like we're
Yeah.
trying to make sure that we're not giving away any
Yeah.
plot points and stuff.
No spoilers here.
Yeah, we want you to be surprised by the
Yeah.
twists and turns and stuff.
Yeah.
But Oliver.
Oliver.
So when you're writing, like, another example of kind of a transactional, but he definitely kind of there's not really much redeemably likable or nice or anything about
Definitely not in book 1.
oh.
I don't know. You're gonna have to read book 2 to find out more about him and
Okay.
what he's going through.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not very likable either. Misguided, perhaps.
But if you could talk a little bit more about like writing that character as well.
Yeah.
Was it something that you had in your mind, the idea of a possible redemption, or not redemption, but like more complicated?
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, because not everybody is either or. You know,
Yeah.
you're not wholly good, you're not wholly bad. I mean, most people are like somewhere in the middle, or like more towards one side or the other.
Yeah.
And for sure, book one, but again, it's coming of age. He is one way
Yeah.
at the beginning, and through book one. As these characters age throughout the war goes on for about 10 years, and the book follows these people for 10 years or so, perhaps even longer, because book one starts in 1769. So by the end, they're all going to be in their late 20s, early 30s. So it gives you opportunity and room to grow as a person, as you mature as a person, as you get out into the world, become an adult, you see things, you experience life. And I kind of wanted that to be the case for my characters as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, are there opportunities for people to redeem themselves if they had been nastier people when they were teenagers? You know, would you hold on to something like that as an adult? Say you're 30 and someone didn't treat you so well at age 16. Would you hold that against them for the rest of your life? If you met them later on and they were maybe a better person, you know, would you give them a second chance? Or not? Maybe they're still crappy, you know? It's kind of how the world is, and I think, you know, it's something to explore, I think, or something I wanted to explore through the books, so, without giving too much away.
One character that I feel like had like an outsized influence on the book, but is not really in the book that much, is John Adams, and also a relationship with Abigail Adams. Like, I don't know if you want to kind of talk a little bit more about like what you know of their relationship and stuff like that, and how you were, what you were getting at and stuff with that.
So their letters are widely available to read, John Adams and Abigail Adams' letters. I didn't read all of them, but I read some of them, and it's a known fact that they had a very good friendship, like in their marriage. And I wanted that to inspire Jack as to what he wanted, because John Adams was his mentor in the book. Jack becomes a lawyer, and after he graduates Harvard, he is taken on by John Adams as his in a tutelage to become a lawyer, or an apprenticeship. And he sort of like learns about things that are going on, how to be a lawyer, through John Adams, who's a very well-read, intelligent man, and also experienced, you know, and saw his relationship with Abigail Adams and thought, you know, well, this is a really nice relationship that he has with his wife. I would love something like that for myself. And he sees more of that in Annalisa than he does in Jane, who is sort of his intended. So I think that's sort of one of the big conflicts for Jack, is he's like, well, I have this idea of what I would want in a spouse, you know, a life partner. But I'm being told that I can't have this person as a life partner. I have to have this person as a life partner. But John Adams is sort of a big inspiration for him.
Like it was
as a young man.
More of a marriage, like that's like a true like
like a partnership. Yes, he sees her as his equal.
Necessarily not something that in the 18th century is
not always
your norm when it comes to marriage.
Exactly.
I mean, and you can see just with other characters as well.
Absolutely.
Where especially like the mother and father Howley. That might not necessarily be the case.
Exactly.
Another thing that was kind of touched on here and there was like the prevalence, so there's a Native American character.
Yes.
And find it interesting. There's one particular instance of hostility that I can think of based on his race at the if I remember correctly, it was
it may have been at the Tea Party, not the Tea Party.
It was at the inn after the well, that might have been another point, but the inn after it was probably the Tea Party.
I think so.
Where, in any ways, what was your inspiration behind the character, and like the research that you went in, because you did mention, for example, like you went a little bit in depth about how relationship between the indigenous peoples and loyalists and patriots and stuff like that was complicated because it wasn't like cut and dry, like
Right.
here's one side.
Exactly.
It wasn't a monolithic kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to show that the Revolutionary War was fought not just by like British and white colonials. I mean, there were people who were freed black people, indigenous people to this area. The Mohawks of New York, they historically fought for the British side. They had made an alliance with the British. I mean, prior to this war, the Abenaki up in Maine, they had an alliance with the French. So these indigenous tribes did have alliances with, the British or, the French, who weren't involved yet.
Yeah.
But I wanted to show that character as, I hate to say representation, but to show that they were there.
Yeah.
And they were a part of the war, and they did fight beside everybody. And I wanted to show that, he's, and I really like Quinnapin as a character. Yeah. He has a bigger role in book 2.
Okay.
But I just wanted to show that, the Wampanoag were still there, and they are still here today. Yeah. And I thought that was important for me to do.
Also, the first character that really kind of accepts Annie for who she is, like truly, in terms of being like a complex.
Yes. Female character,
not just like, because even George and Jack kind of have to grow into accepting, whereas Quinn did not really at all need to, was kind of immediate.
Yeah, it's different, but they also share sort of a similarity in perhaps not necessarily being accepted by the society.
Yeah.
Or by mainstream 18th century white society.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to show that parallel in their connection, and that's why he accepts her so readily. She accepts him so readily.
Yeah.
And they have a nice friendship, so.
Yeah. And I think we could probably start, if anyone has questions, we could probably open it up here.
Sure.
A little bit. Does anyone have any questions that they wish to ask the author?
Lindsey, you mentioned that, if I heard you correctly, you mentioned that you were 16 years old when you sort of started with these characters. So they've been with you for a long time.
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
Well, I read the first and second book, and I enjoyed them very much. And I'm looking forward to the third book. And while I don't want you to spend your entire life with these characters, I really encourage you to do something on the War of 1812, because once I start reading about characters and see them through years and years and decades, I want them to keep going.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that was sort of something that I just recently was thinking of, because I'm like, well, I'm going to be finishing, because at first I was thinking, well, maybe this won't be a trilogy, maybe it'll be a series and I can do a book 4, but I feel like the story I want to tell with them is really sort of capped, and I didn't want to force anything that maybe wouldn't be natural to the story, since I already have an idea and a general arc of where it's all going to go. But then I was like, well, the kids are going to grow up like during the War of 1812, and sort of like that Regency era, which I also really love, Jane Austen. So I thought, well, that would be really fun, and I could do, without giving anything away, the children who are born to certain characters throughout this story would be of age during the War of 1812. So that would be really fun, I think, to follow their journey and still have cameos of the parents,
And so could you just repeat, you said Annalise's house was patterned after some house. Was
the French Andrews House on Howlett Street.
As I read the book, you would talk about something, I go, okay, now where in Topsfield is that? It was like, you do that, you want to know.
You do, you totally do.
There's so many familiar names, and you think, okay, now, was that really down, You sort of try to visualize it.
It's true. Fun, and some of it is fictional, because I was reading, there's a book that, I think think the Historical Society published, like, back in the 80s. It was like Houses and Buildings of Topsfield.
Yeah.
And I was reading on all the houses for Perkins Row, and there's a lot there that is, I forget which end it's at, but the house is no longer there, but there was an 18th century home that is no longer there. And I was like, that's the spot for the Perkins estate, because it's no longer there. Not to give anything away, that's not gonna be anything in the books, but I was like, that's probably where that would be, you know, if I was to like map it out in my head based on like where Annalisa would live and where the Perkins estate would be, it would be that lot on Perkins Row.
Thank you, now that helps me picture it better.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to know if from the very start, when you were 16 and started, did you always envision it as a trilogy or as a more than one book?
No, I didn't. I was working on it, and I probably got maybe 75 pages in, and school, college kind of life gets in the way. And then I ended up working on it. I probably picked it back up in like 2016. And was like, I really want to do something with this. I really like these characters. I feel drawn to it. I love this story and where it could go. So I looked at what I had, and I just kind of like started writing, and I got to about 1,000 pages, and I was like, you're never gonna be able to query this. You're not gonna find an agent. Like, nobody is gonna want to read a 1,000 page book. Like, you need to chunk this up. So I was doing a lot of research into querying, because at the time I wanted to be traditionally published, and I thought, well, maybe I have a story here. But they said, you know, you have to have a satisfying ending for book 1 in case they don't want to contract you for book 2. If book 1 doesn't do well, book 2 might never happen. So I'm like, okay, well, I changed a lot of things to make book 1 a satisfying ending, was where I kind of found the natural like ending for book 1. And then book 2 kind of just fell into place. I did have to change a bunch of things, but it kind of fell into place. And then I've changed so many things between books 1 and books 2 that I don't even recognize what I have for book 3. So I'm basically rewriting all of book 3 and trying to salvage what I can. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a process, but I didn't know that it was going to be a trilogy when I started, no.
And does it feel like these characters are real to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I know them. I mean, I went so far as to like, I gave them all birthdays, astrological zodiac signs. I mean, I know a little more about them. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, of course Annalisa would do that. She's a cusp Taurus Gemini. Like, of course she would. Like, you know, Jack's a Pisces. Like, I don't know. I just.
So she'll react this way?
Yeah, George is a Scorpio. Like, I don't know. I had fun kind of doing that.
One more. Do you map out for yourself do you draw like a map of where your activity is going to take place, or is it all up here?
It's all up here.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I know, I wish I was more of like a visual. It probably would help the writing process.
Can you read these books independently?
You can, yeah. I would say you definitely could read them independently. Book 1 has a satisfying ending, so you could certainly just read book 1 and not ever have to read book 2. You could also pick up book 2 and read it and be fairly informed and not be too lost. You don't have to have read book 1 to enjoy book 2. It makes more sense if you've read book 1, but they are certainly written as standalones, and I'm trying to get book 3 in that shape as well, that you could pick up book 3 and read it and not have to have read book 1 or book 2.
If I could ask a question.
Yes.
Talk about the process of like publishing a little bit. I know there's a lot of people, including people that might be watching this, that they go through like a lot of rejection, a lot of here's what you need to fix or whatever. Mm-hmm. Talk about your journey with that.
Yeah, it's been a journey with a capital J. Book 1 was traditionally published. I don't like the experience I had publishing it was an independent press that signed my book. I didn't have an agent, which was fine, but I didn't have a great experience with this publisher, so I'm kind of like counting down the days to get my rights back so I can republish it. I decided I didn't want them because I was only contracted for 1 book, so I was like, thank God they're not touching book 2. So I self-published book 2. I had all the control. It's expensive if you want to do it well.
Yeah.
But there are things that you can do to cut costs for sure, because you are hiring, editors, plural, to make sure that the manuscript looks good.
Yeah.
You know, cover editor, internal formatting. You can do those things yourself, but to make it look professional, you certainly want to hire people if you're not sort of a designer.
Yeah.
I had a much better time with book 2 because I had all the control back. Book 1 was just a nightmare getting out into the world.
Did you shop around, or was it just like an experience where maybe you didn't, like, you know, you're kind of new to the experience?
Totally.
Didn't have like an agent or anything.
Right. So you don't have somebody to like advocate for you, which is nice if you have an agent. They're also the gateway to like the big 5 publishers, you know, like Penguin, Random House, like all those big publishers. But those people are looking for what's marketable and what is on trend. Historical fiction is never on trend, but it's never not on trend, if that makes sense. You have like your Bridgertons, you have, you know, your Outlanders, like there's always a market for historical fiction. I don't know that there's necessarily a market for Revolutionary War fiction. Minus Outlander, she kind of touches on Revolutionary War a little bit, but I
was having a conversation with my colleague where it's just like I was trying to name like all the books I could think of that like was written that has like Johnny Tremaine, I guess.
Right.
And I really was blanking on it.
Yeah, no, it's true because there's not a huge market for it, and like I said earlier, a lot of what is written or famous for the Revolutionary War is like 1776 and like after, so you don't have anything that really is like Boston based, Massachusetts, New England based at the beginning of the war, which was kind of what I wanted for representation for that part of Revolutionary War. I mean, like there's plenty of historical fiction on like World War II, Regency era, like there's a ton for that, but this is, I didn't know how marketable it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I kind of found also that when you're querying, they want to know who your target audience is. And when I wrote the book, I didn't really have a target audience in mind. And they kind of like, oh, well, it's young adult because it's coming of age. And I'm like, but it's kind of like an adult book. I think like more adults would tend to read it as opposed to like teenagers, only because of like the themes and topics and stuff that kind of permeate everything that has to do with that war. So, I mean, I could see like maybe like older teens enjoying it, but certainly not like 13 or 14-year-olds. I think they'd be bored, perhaps. Perhaps,
but,
depending on the kiddo.
Yeah,
I think,
it definitely depends on the kid.
Right.
So it sounds like, so with the second one, you decided I'm doing this myself.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that process a little bit? And, like, what that entails? And
that was a lot of like research on like timelines for publishing, you know, like how far out you want to have your manuscript completed, like the first draft, second draft, you know, when you're going to submit to editors, or, you know, how to find editors, you know, who's going to be interested in your work and do it justice, you know, sort of like get your vision. Maybe you also read the first book and can say like, you know, oh yeah, like this makes sense for your second book, you know, or hey, like plot hole here, you know, you kind of want someone who has a good eye for that. I was lucky enough I didn't need a developmental edit for book 2, so I just had the copy edit, line edit, and the proofread after, you know, going through it several times with myself, going through it with beta readers, going through it with a historical fiction critique group I was in. So it's seen a lot of eyes had been on it. Which I think is helpful. So then you have sort of that timeline as to, you know, when you can get your book into, you know, from draft mode into, okay, now we can go into formatting it. So you send it to the formatter, and then you still want to do your proofread to make sure that everything looks good on the printed page. So, and then of course it's, you know, uploading it to Ingram Spark, which is the wholesale distribution platform. And then you want to get a book, you know, sent to you, but, you know, in the meantime you're working with a cover artist and they're asking you, oh, well, you know, what's your book about? And you're like, well, how to explain this to you in a paragraph. And so yeah, I mean, I love working with the cover artists because, you know, they had great ideas. And then, you know, getting them to format the cover, and it's like, okay, well, I need to know what my page count is, because they need to know what the spine width is going to be and how to format the cover. And I'm like, well, I don't know that until I'm like ready to upload my manuscript. So it gets kind of hairy at the ending stages of it. So I mean, you want to give yourself like 12 months to 15 months to publish. So
It sounds like there's a lot of work involved and not just, gee, I think I'll write a book.
100%, and you could do that too, but it might have a lot of errors in it.
It just sounds like there's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
You had to go through to make that happen.
Totally. And then of course you want to figure out what formats you're going to publish in. You know, like Ingram Spark gives you all these options too.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, well, I definitely want an ebook because people like Kindle.
Yep.
I definitely want paperback, and I know a lot of people like to read hardcover. But they give you different dimensions. Do you want a 5x8? Do you want a 6x9? Do you want a 5.5 by 8.5? And you're like, okay, well, I need to figure out what dimensions I want, and I need to tell the formatter who's formatting the book what the dimensions are going to be for the book, so that could be formatted. And then same for, you have all these different files you have to keep in order on your computer. You're uploading. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, you could just do an ebook and call it a day. You get one format, one little image of the cover, and like that's the easiest way to self-publish for sure. But if you want to try to do it as formally as a traditionally published book would be, there's a lot of steps you have to go through. It's a labor of love.
Have you given any thought to putting it in an audio version?
Yes, I get that question a lot, and it's so funny. Okay, so funny story. You should say that. So at my job, I work in the cardiac cath lab, and we have to do different rules. So you can circulate a case where you're in the room, you're wearing lead, you're giving medications. You also have to learn how to be on the other side, and you're talking through a microphone, and you're repeating back all the things that are happening in the case. So if someone gives fentanyl, you're saying 25 of fentanyl, like confirming that you heard what was given, and everyone's like, you need to do an audiobook and you need to be the recorder because your microphone voice sounds awesome overhead. And one of my coworkers just told me that like the other day, so I was like, that's awesome.
The reason I asked that question is I'm listening to you today and I'm thinking, that could be Annalise's voice. It really could.
Oh, thanks.
And I listen to a lot of audiobooks, as other members of the book club will tell you.
Audiobooks are like, they're like the thing. I know everybody loves listening to audiobooks, so yeah, I've looked into it, but only like, I've like scraped the surface. From what I can gather, it takes so many hours to record one chapter. It's quite a process. You need sort of the right equipment, and then you need to be able to edit it, and I haven't looked into formatting or any of that, but just the recording process itself, I think, is quite lengthy. It would probably take me at least a half a year to probably record a book of 500 pages. But again, labor of love, right?
Finish book 3 before you do an audio.
Yeah. Right.
Has any like other author reached out to you, or have you reached out to any other author, or like sought guidance or anything?
On audiobooks?
No, on on books in general.
Just on books in general.
Audiobooks too.
Yeah, so I made some good author friends through publishing the first book, because we all had issues with this publisher. So where there's misery, there's company, right? So we all like became really good friends, and I still talk to these other authors, and we're always promoting each other's work, and it's a good way to network, especially using social media, which I hate having to use social media, but it's one of the best ways to get your book out there to various audiences. So it's good to have a number of people on board to like help plug your events, plug your book. Hey, I'm having a giveaway, or like, hey, check out this author, especially where one author might have a great like sci-fi following, but maybe people who follow them also read historical fiction. You don't know. It's like you never know who you're gonna reach. So it's been fun to network in that way. Yeah.
I wish it was over, something probably a little bit more of a positive experience instead of having trouble with your publisher.
Right.
But I mean that's pretty good. But there's no like established author or anything that you've like chatted with, or
not really. I spoke a little bit with Sally Christie. She wrote the Mistresses of Versailles trilogy, which I love. I think that book was really, really fun to read. And she did a blurb for me. She read the first book, which I was like, oh my God, you want to read this? This is amazing. Thank you. And just, I didn't really talk a whole lot to her about the publishing process, because she was published traditionally and had an agent. But yeah, I did reach out to her, and she was nice enough to get back to me and actually read the book and give me a blurb. So that's another thing you have to do when you're publishing. You got to ask people to read your book and offer a blurb that you can put on the back cover. So that's a good time. Yeah.
How long did it take you to like make the book?
Oh my God, years. Years, but that's not usual. It's just because I was writing on and off for the past 20 years of my life. So yeah. But yeah, some people can write a book in a month. I don't know how they do that. But first draft, yeah.
How long did it actually take for the second book? I know you had some stuff you could use from the first book.
The second book didn't take me that long. I think I finished the manuscript in a few months because I already had sort of what I wanted. Was it last summer? Yeah, last summer I finished the manuscript, got it off to the editors. By January of last year, I was pretty much in a good spot to get ready to publish it for April, which my publication date was April 19th. So.
Oh. Good date.
Good date, exactly. So, yeah, that was, yeah.
Did you ever think about not publishing it?
Not publishing it, no. I mean, maybe in the beginning stages, I was like, well, this is just a passion project. I really like writing these characters, but then I was like, well, I've always wanted to be an author, so why not?
Did you ever think that you're actually going to write a book?
I always wanted to. It was always something that I had wanted to as a younger kid, and something I wrote fan fiction for Pirates of the Caribbean when I was in high school. So I had a lot of experience writing, 300 pages, 350 pages of just material. Whether it was good or not is up for debate. But I think coming up with these characters was sort of my first attempt at coming up with my own characters, because I so enjoyed, Pirates of the Caribbean and other things of that 18th century. So I was like, well, I like that time period, and I grew up in this historic area. I might as well put, these interests of mine into a story of my own that I can call my own. And I don't know, the characters just kind of came to me. So I think it was not ever something that I initially thought that I would publish it, but something that came later on down the road when I thought more seriously, hey, maybe I could do this. And thankfully we live in today's world where you can self-publish. If this was 30 years ago and I was writing, I would have had to have gotten an agent to publish, and then I might not be here today. Because it's just it's like getting an agent to be on Broadway or, get in the movies. It's very, very high stakes and very competitive. So it's nice that we have the opportunity to self-publish.
Do you have a special place you write?
Oh, good question. I have my guest room that I've been writing a lot in there. When I wrote book 2, I was outside a lot because it was the summertime and the weather was beautiful last summer. So I spent a lot of time writing outside on my deck. And then I like writing in my living room too, just because it's kind of cozy in there. So 3 different places I like to write. Yes.
Have you gotten any feedback from people outside of America about your books?
Ooh, good question. There was a review I saw someone left. I want to say they were from Germany. There were a couple of other people, maybe from England or other parts of the world, where they were like, I don't know a lot about this war, but it was interesting to read, and they felt like they learned a lot about the war. So I was like, well, that's good. I'm glad that served its purpose. So, I mean, not a huge readership outside of the U.S., but yeah, there have been some, which took me by surprise.
It's a beginning.
Yeah, it's the beginning. Yes. Thank you.
Now I can't wait to read it.
Yay! Oh my gosh, I hope you like it.
Well, I can say that you're not going to waste your time reading this. It's an excellent book, and I mean, on top of it, the local interest makes it that much cooler too. Where I was telling Lindsey earlier, I was out on the Common reading a scene that took place 250 years before, on the Common, just right over here, and it was kind of like a surreal moment where I'm like, wait, I look down at the ground, look at the book, and I'm like, oh man,
right?
It's here. The story is right here.
Right here. Totally, totally.
Especially with like Topsfield still kind of retaining a lot. You know, we have the Capon House right there.
Yeah.
That like old colonial charm.
Definitely.
That it really. You're not. It's not going to be. It's not going to be wasted time reading this. It was fun. It kept my attention, and I mean, I'm glad we have you here today, obviously,
Thank you.
and I couldn't recommend the book more.
Yay! Thank you. Thank you, guys. Yeah, born and raised in Topsfield.
Okay.
Yay!
All right. Well,
Yeah, well,
thank you
thank
for
you.
coming by today.
Absolutely.
And,
Thank you for having me.
So Lindsay has copies of both the books in the
In
back
case
over
anybody
here.
would like to purchase.
Yeah.
No, good luck.
Oh.
Yay!
Absolutely, yeah. And since we have the author here today,
I can sign
get a
them.
nice autographed copy as well.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I have a book for you to author it.
Yes, yes. Excellent.
I've already bought from the store.
Oh, this, yes.
But
Excellent.
like it was really good. So I grew up in Charlestown too. So
wow.
I think the Battle of Bunker, like I know a lot about the Battle of Bunker Hill just by osmosis. I was telling Lindsay, I'm just like nailed it. Like got the history down, all the way down where you're talking about like extending the earthworks
Yes.
to the Mystic River.
Yes, yep.
Like that
Stark
wasn't-
and his dudes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that wasn't a lot. I was just like, yeah, that's exactly what happened.
It is
Yeah.
totally true.
And-
And like that was the first New Hampshire regiment, which I told you I reenact. That's my regiment. I was like, first New Hampshire.
Oh yeah, it was. So like I was like I could tell that there was just a lot of research done to like it wasn't
Right.
it was great. It
Thank
was
you.
great.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Yay.
And a little plug for book 2, I read book 2.
Yeah.
And book 1 is good. You're going to really like book 2.
Really?
Yeah. Book 2 is like boom.
Yeah. All of a sudden, the first couple of pages, it's wow.
Well, I
Yeah.
thought with the first one too that like it didn't really waste time getting into
No,
like within the first 5 pages. It's just like, all right, she has a scar, she's shooting a gun.
Yeah.
Like which is just I was just like, oh god, like
Yeah.
wow, it's like everything's
Who is this woman? Yeah.
and it really like for a book that's 476 pages long, it didn't really drag it. There was no point where it's just like, okay, there's a slowdown here or
Right.
anything like that.
Aw,
There's always
thank you.
something going on, which is good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yay.
Well, who did the map? There is a map.
There is a map, yeah. That's an old historic map of Boston. Yeah. I think it's from the Boston Map Collection, I think is where I found that. I know, it's like you wouldn't recognize Boston from looking at the map. Just how little it was. I mean, it's just this little peninsula.
I was shocked.
Practically an island.
Paul Revere's house.
Yeah.
It's like
I know, it's just like crammed right there.
crammed right there.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, we live in a great historic area.
It's just one of those things you walk around, like you strike me as the type of person, if you're walking down the street in Boston, if there's a plaque, you're reading what's on the plaque. There's no plaque that goes unread, there's no like
Right.
I mean you're probably a bit of a history nerd.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
But like
yeah.
only with this war though.
Well, I mean, you're in the area.
I know nothing about the Civil War, like.
Well, I
But
was
it's because of this area.
I was talking to one of my coworkers about that too, where it's just like I feel like that it's just here. It's just because it's just everywhere you go. It's just
Yes.
like boom, like oh yeah, this was
here.
this is where this took. Like you go into like South Boston, you're just like oh here's Dorchester Heights.
There's Dorchester, exactly.
Oh here growing up in Charlestown, just like oh yeah, this is I played Little League at the Neck.
Right, which is like.
And it's just like that's just
That's
the
just
neck
there,
you're reading.
yeah.
And you're like oh yeah,
It is, the
Charlestown
neck,
Neck, or and
wild.
something else. Yeah, it really is wild.
Yeah.
It really is crazy. I think we're kind of spoiled here sometimes just because like there's a lot
Absolutely.
of places in this country where like like a house built in like 1950. They're just like, ooh,
It's historic for them. Yeah, exactly.
Really old house.
Like out west in like Oregon and
Yeah.
like say like you hear people like, oh, I want a really historic house built in the early 1900s, and you're like, what about a house built in 1689? Or like out here, we're like, here, hold my beer, 1780. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have another book in the works that takes place during the Salem witch trials. Another like inspiring area that we live in for the witch trials.
That sounds really
Yeah,
interesting.
the title for that is I have another book in the works that I'm working on. It'll be a standalone. It takes place during the Salem witch trials. So
wow.
yeah,
Yeah,
that one's
that'd be
called the
great.
Candlemas Massacre. So that'll be out. I don't even know when. I'm not focusing on that one yet, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean that, and once again, especially like Topsfield too, that
It's
has
historic.
that history with
Yep,
it, with
exactly.
Wild family.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's actually the
Yeah.
main family.
Yeah.
Yep.
Does
Yep.
much of this involve Ipswich? Because Ipswich is the.
Yes.
Has the most.
Oh, the most. Yeah, absolutely.
Ancient homes. Oh, ancient.
Yeah, ancient for here. Yes, there are definitely some scenes that take place in Ipswich, but it is primarily in and around Topsfield, just because that's where I'm from.
And she still cries because we sold our house in Topsfield.
I know, I do. You don't need to remind me. Yeah.
well, we're glad you're at our little.
Yes, I mean, I
library
like grew up at this library, so it's very exciting to be here as an author.
You worked, you volunteered?
I did. I volunteered here. I reorganized the mystery room back in the day.
How long ago?
Like 2003 probably.
Not that long.
I know.
Masconomet.
Feels that long. Yeah, I know. That was like one of the first things I said.
Now, Lindsay,
What?
when you volunteered here, did you ever think in your head that you would have a book every
No.
summer?
No, I don't think I ever did. No.
She has 6 copies of the book at the library, doesn't she?
Yeah. Well, you got the little call number here with the last name. Yeah.
The book club has 10, 6 at the library, and we bought some.
Between us, we bought 4.
Oh, thank you guys. Oh,
So I'm actually asking you to sign this.
I would love to sign it. Yes.
It's gonna be really great help.
Absolutely.